Hey, Anita.
Hey, Karen.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Well, it's another episode of TruBlu Politics Podcast. Are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
So today we are going to be speaking about the breaking news with Emoluments Clause violation findings, the BS GOP junket to the border for the political theater and photo ops. And then we're going to talk about things to look for in the future, and with President Biden in particular.
Great.
Let's do this.
Let's get started.
Blue wave, we rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away on a blue wave.
So, Anita, as you know, yesterday the Democrats' Oversight Committee released a report proving Trump pocketed millions from at least 20 foreign governments as president.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
And so this was released by Jamie Raskin, who is our favorite Maryland representative and ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Accountability. And so what this looked into was Trump's business dealings while he was in office. And of course, he did not divest him
Of course not.
from. Yes. So basically, immediately after taking over as Oversight Committee chairman in January of 2023, we know that Representative James Comer allowed former President Trump's attorneys to speak on behalf of the committee and bury evidence by stopping the production of additional responsive records. As a result, the $7.8 million detailed in this report based on records for just 2 years of his presidency involving four or more it involved four or more of his
Properties.
500 businesses.
Yeah.
And so they're saying that it's just a small fraction of the payments former President Trump received from foreign governments while in office, in violation of the Constitution's foreign
Emoluments Clause.
Yes.
He doesn't care about that. They don't care about the Constitution. Right now, they're investigating Joe Biden for stuff that he did, that businesses that his son was involved in. Well, Joe Biden wasn't even in office. Donald Trump was president at the time. Joe Biden wasn't vice president. He was a private citizen. And all they could find was like a $4,000 car loan.
Yeah.
And this is what we're looking at now. The Democrats have put this out, which I think is brilliant.
Yes.
Because they are, hell-bent on doing this stupid impeachment with no evidence.
Right. Zero. Yeah.
And
zero.
it's just, it's shameless because Donald Trump is their leader. I mean, my God, the guy is neck deep in these emolument clause violations.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on, and like they said, this is just a fraction of it. And Mary Trump, she has a Substack, and so she was speaking to this, and of course she knows her uncle pretty well. And so what she was saying about it, knowing Donald as I do, I knew that there was more to it when he said he'd reject the presidential salary paid by Americans. Now we know why he did. He was already bought and paid for by over 20 foreign governments.
Yeah, he was being paid by foreign governments. He wasn't being paid by the American people. He didn't need to be. Because he was paid to represent these other countries.
Exactly. So speaking of Comer, so Jasmine Crockett, so I'm just going to let everybody know going into this that we love Jasmine Crockett. This episode is going to be heavy with Jasmine Crockett because as far as I'm concerned, she is one of the best messengers. And she's from Texas.
Yes, she is.
So
you have some people to be proud of.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and play this bit from yesterday when she was on Deadline White House with Alicia Menendez on a panel with Tim. I can't remember the other guy's name. Sorry, Tim, and then David Jolly.
Yeah. So what I want the American people first to understand is that this isn't a knee-jerk reaction to the sham impeachment inquiry that we're dealing with. This is something that started 7 years ago, and Elijah Cummings actually was the ranking member, and he's the one that started this because he did have concerns because any other president would divest themselves of their interests, but Trump refused to do so. All right, so we started 7 years ago, and I know people are saying, well, why are we just now talking about it now? Well, Trump likes to do, has fought this in court for years and years and years. It wasn't until September of 22 that he entered into a settlement agreement. And in that settlement agreement, his accounting firm was supposed to hand over documentation. So from September until basically January, we were starting to get some documents. And those few documents revealed the information that you just gave. And these are all conservative estimates. The problem that we have is that in January of 2023, Comer swore in as the chair of the committee, and Comer said, there's no need to comply anymore. Let's dismiss this all, obstructing our ability to know just how deep it went with Trump. And of that figure that you've given, I can tell you that almost $6 million of that money specifically was money from China.
Yeah. Wow.
I know. Well, like I said, it's shameless. I mean, they have the audacity to start talking about Biden and China when they just completely just suppressed this they had to have known.
Yep.
This stuff was out there.
Yeah.
But Trump is running the show. Trump is running the Republican Party. He tells them they have to do this. And so whether they're uncomfortable with it or not, because, it is so shameless and so obvious, they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
Yep.
And I think Jasmine Crockett talks about that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and this is all stuff that, you and I, of course, as we were watching, because we were drinking and watching and drinking and watching all this stuff
and
unfold.
Drinking.
And drinking. And,
Yeah.
yes. But so it's the stuff that, we knew.
Yeah.
The fact that right out of the gate, he refused to divest. Okay, so
it was such a sham too. He had all those papers. Remember all those folders with those papers in it? Are these blank folders? It turned out to be they were blank.
Yeah.
And he had a lawyer up there saying he was going to divest from this, and somebody else was going to take charge. And look, we have all these folders to prove it behind us.
Well, and I remember.
Theater.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember too. We were talking about during the whole thing where, his kids are conducting Trump business. Getting Secret Service protection.
Secret Service protection,
Thank you. With taxpayer dollars.
Oh, yeah.
He talked about...
They were going on ski trips and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
They were getting Secret Service protection.
Yeah, and like Mary said, everybody was like, oh, see, he's not a lying dirtbag grifter. He's not taking a salary. He's refusing.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Right.
Yeah.
He was being paid by Saudi Arabia and China and Qatar.
Yep.
Anyway, he didn't need a paycheck from the American people.
No, he sure didn't. So, you had brought to my attention the clip with Steve Ratner on Morning Joe.
Well, you have a bonus chart, actually, today. And there's been a lot of talk in recent weeks about Hunter Biden and how was he trying to raise money off of his father's name and influence. And we should, again, note that Hunter Biden never worked in the White House. You know who did? Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner worked in the White House. And you've got a chart there that details the sources of his money. I'll let you explain it. But it should be noted here that Kushner also, his background in real estate, not exactly as a hedge fund magnate or a peace broker in the Middle East.
So you're right, Jonathan. Jared Kushner did work in the White House. He worked very hard. It's becoming a little less clear what he actually worked hard at, because after he left the White House, he went out and raised $3.1 billion, that's billion with a B, for a private equity fund. And as you pointed out, he's not a private equity guy. He's a real estate guy. So where did this money come from? Some of it we know from filing. Some of it we know from press reports. What we know for a fact is he raised the $3.1 billion. What we also know for a fact is that only about $30 million of it actually came from investors in the United States. All the rest of it is foreign money. And of that foreign money, $2 billion of it came from the Saudis. And not only did it come from the Saudis, but the Public Investment Fund, which is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, from which this money came, the board of it voted against giving the money to Jared, and they were overruled by MBS, who said, give him the $2 billion. I've been in this business 40 years. I have never seen someone get $2 billion out of $3 billion, get 2/3 of their money from a single investor. Usually a single investor might be a few percent of the fund, might be 5%, occasionally 10%. Never seen this. Another 200 million, we believe, came from Qatar. Another 200 million, we believe, came from the UAE. And then the 625 million that came from foreign investors that we don't even know who they are. So what was Jared Kushner doing in the White House? And by the way, as a fun fact, on January 6th, the famous January 6th, Jared Kushner was in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's pretty devastating.
Yeah.
And yet they're going to go after Hunter Biden because his father loaned him money for a truck.
Yeah, no, but really, we know that the reason that they're going after Hunter Biden is because exactly what we just heard.
Yeah, of course. Of course. They want to distract from that. Well, Donald Trump knows all these things, these shenanigans were going on. He knows exactly what they were doing.
Of course.
So how do you distract from that? How do you muddy the waters? Yep. By saying, oh, well, look at Hunter Biden. Look at Joe Biden. What were they doing?
We know it's all about projection. I mean, Donald Trump does it. James Comer does it, you know.
And remarkably, they've been investigating Hunter and Joe Biden for like 5 years now. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden is come out clean, pretty clean. Yes. He is one of the least corrupted politicians ever. They've been investigating all of his bank records. They've gone through all of his, different, transactions. Mm-hmm. They've looked at all of his, they've looked all over. They've just dug everywhere looking for something, a crime.
Yeah.
And all they've come out with was Hunter Biden had some tax evasion, that he paid back the taxes, and this stupid gun, he lied on a gun permit when he was a drug addict.
Right. And you look at anybody else that runs for, certainly the office of president, they release tax returns. Hillary Clinton was investigated, everything about her, everything, her personal life, her personal, financial matters. They were investigated ad nauseum.
They're the most investigated.
Right.
Yeah,
and yet, red flags all over the place with Donald Trump from, like we said, not divesting, not releasing tax returns. And it's remarkable that they're going after him about some stuff that happened when Hunter Biden wasn't in office. He wasn't vice president. He was a private citizen. When President Biden, Hunter Biden.
President Biden.
I'm not voting for Hunter. I don't know about you.
I'm not going to vote for Hunter Biden either. I've knocked him. Yeah, he's off my list.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah. So Mary Trump, in her Substack, she talks about. So she says, not so fun fact. Donald chose Saudi Arabia for his first overseas trip, an unusual move that raised many eyebrows. And who can forget that Donald appeared to have defended Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman after allegations emerged about the brutal murder of American resident journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
That was Jared's BFF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
MBS.
Yeah, and we have no idea what happened there. I mean, this stuff.
They had little slumber parties, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And right after that, all of a sudden, the Saudi prince started jailing people that were threatening him for taking. He wanted to take over. He wanted to be king. He wanted to take over from his father.
Yeah.
And all these other. He has a lot of different siblings and cousins and stuff like that. And those people started either being executed or imprisoned. And where did he get that information?
Right.
That information was probably given to him by Jared Kushner, because Jared Kushner was getting the daily briefings instead of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even pass a national security clearance.
Thank you. Exactly. And it was basically put through because he was the president's son-in-law. Yeah.
That's all.
That's it.
That's it. That's the only reason why.
That's it.
Not only he couldn't pass it, Ivanka couldn't pass either.
Right.
And they both got special clearance, even though they were all kinds of they had all kinds of problems.
Yep. Absolutely. So Mary Trump goes on and she says, what can we do? And she has some steps. So I'm just going to, so basically get the word out. Some swing voters still don't want a president who is owned by foreign corporations and governments, and some actually respect the Constitution. So Donald never asked for consent from Congress. And there's one more thing we can do, only a few Democratic leaders are talking about. So, okay, so she says impeach him if our nightmare comes true. So she's speaking in the event, the horrible possibility that
I
he would
don't.
actually, yeah, that he can still get into office. This is already grounds to impeach him.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't even want to think about that because I don't. That cannot happen.
It can't.
I'm not sure that impeachment will even stop him.
Right. Well, yeah, because there's still, unless we get enough Democrats in office, right? Yeah, and I mean, because we already know Republicans won't do what's required.
Yeah, we need like 57 Democrats.
Yeah.
In office.
Yes.
In the Senate.
Yes. Yeah, in order to convict. So
Yeah.
what she says her mission is publicizing Donald's fraudulent, anti-American, and potentially criminal activity puts me directly at risk of retribution for my uncle, but I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to stop him from destroying our democracy, and I need your help. And that's exactly what we need to do, and what we've been talking about is getting the word out. That is extremely important for us all.
Yeah, it's really scary that there's so many people that have to be afraid of the retribution, of retribution from Donald Trump if he gets elected.
Right.
Which cannot happen. It just cannot happen.
Right.
We will not have a democracy anymore.
We definitely won't, because we know that the GOP is not going to do anything. Like, they are complicit. They are right there with them. And so Jasmine Crockett actually, in the same appearance on MSNBC, had this to say.
That's information that we didn't get. We know that he has businesses in Russia, but we didn't get the information about the money. So when we're getting the obstruction from the Republicans, not wanting to help the Ukrainians, not wanting to help the Taiwanese, we have to wonder if they are getting their signal from Trump, and Trump is giving the signal because of all of the money that he's gotten, not to mention the overlap as it relates to various trademarks.
Yeah, that's really scary.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't able to obtain any of that information about Russia or China. And we know, China, we know, spent, and that's just the tip of the iceberg with China.
Mm-hmm.
We know Donald Trump that affects our foreign policy. That's the way he is.
Yeah.
He's not like Joe Biden, who's been in, Washington for 50 years, who's been steeped in foreign policy.
Right.
We know him. We know he knows his foreign policy. Donald Trump doesn't care about any of that. No. Donald Trump only cares about what's good for him personally. That's how fascists, authoritarians, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They make everything about themselves.
Right.
And that's what Donald Trump will do. He will not care what's best for American people. That's why it's so funny that he says America first, and his followers think that, he cares about America. No.
Mm-mm.
Donald Trump didn't take a paycheck from the American people.
No.
He took a paycheck from Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Russia and China.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he's already telling us, this time around, he's not even pretending that he's going to be just like, another Republican president, right? He is saying exactly what he wants. And, we were going to talk about this at some point, but, you had shared the Trump
Word
shares
cloud.
Poll. Yeah. Trump shares poll result predicting revenge and dictatorship as priorities.
Yeah, he's telling us. He's not even hiding it, because you know what? A lot of his followers are just fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
They're fine with him being a dictator. They're fine with fascism.
Mm-hmm.
We've always been kind of suspicious that they were fascist. But they've only gotten more fascist.
Yeah, and we'll share this in our show notes. But so basically, it said Donald Trump on Tuesday shared an image showing the poll respondents used the words revenge and dictatorship to describe what he hopes to get out of another term in the White House. The former president, the GOP's frontrunner for the 2024 nomination, shared the image of a word cloud on Truth Social platform without comment. So anyway, the word cloud had originally been published by the Daily Mail, which said it had polled 1,000 likely voters and asked them to describe in one word what President Joe Biden and Trump each want from a second term. The most popular word for Biden was nothing, followed by economy and peace, according to the Daily Mail. For Trump, the top results included revenge, power, and dictatorship.
Yeah. How does that help you, America?
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's what he wants. And he's telling us we have no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
You've been warned.
He is self-serving. This has nothing to do with public service. It has nothing to do with bringing about positive change in policies for Americans. And you know, one of the things, Anita, that we had talked about was the complete 180 on Qatar.
Yeah, this is a prime example of what we're talking about, how the emoluments clause, why it's important, because it can affect, if you have somebody like Donald Trump in there,
Mm-hmm.
it could affect foreign policy, important foreign policy. And we saw it happen with Qatar.
Yeah. Foreign policy, you know, and national security.
Well, national security, of course.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I have a clip here that Mary Trump shared about his complete 180 from 2017.
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. We have a gentleman on my right who buys a lot of equipment from us, a lot of purchases in the United States. Those countries are stopping the funding of terrorism. And that includes UAE, it includes Saudi Arabia, it includes Qatar. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go. I mean, total 180. I mean, what else is there to say?
I mean,
seriously,
it is.
I mean, we've already talked about how they, you know, that they had that blockade. This was later on when Jared Kushner was trying to sell 666 and Qatar backed out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden there was this blockade.
Yeah.
And the United States, which has a military base there, did nothing. I'm just saying.
And it's where is Jared Kushner right now? Where is Ivanka?
Well, I'll tell you where they're going to be in the White House again. Jared Kushner is in Israel. He just went to Israel. He's, you know, glad handed and tell everybody, don't worry, we're coming back. Because Israel, of course, benefited to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
He allowed Jared Kushner, who had investments in those settlements on the West Bank, they benefited from that. I mean, the government did. Netanyahu.
Yes.
The Likud party.
Yes.
The far right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they really actually benefited from, Israel actually benefited from the Kushners, because they didn't. Because
no. The Israeli
was terrible for Israel.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're seeing that all play out right now. That's a larger conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm so glad that the Democrats are coming out and sounding the alarm and releasing this report, and just the fact that even with what they're releasing, that is the tip of the iceberg.
It is the tip of the iceberg.
It is just there's going to be so much uncovered over the next decade and more. I feel like, with this whole situation, you know, I just imagine 10, 20 years from now, just continuing to learn more and more about this stuff.
Well, of course, we're going to continue to learn more. That's true over the years. But I also think that if Democrats take over the House again and remain in control of the Senate, that's when we're going to be able to get to the bottom of a lot of this too.
Yeah.
You know, but we can't do it with Republicans. They are just going to continue to suppress the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, you know,
and they talk about transparency, but they don't mean it.
No. And just being able to now finally, you know, they're just kind of taking the gloves off and sounding the alarm that the GOP and Donald Trump do not care about the Constitution. They don't think that it applies to them. And she had more to say about that on Deadline White House as well.
And now we're just getting some of the information. Now you contrast that with what we see the Republicans doing. It's simply a matter of them bending the knee again to Trump. It is the cult-like mentality that we see that is becoming pervasive in this country, where they say that He's our ruler. It doesn't matter what he does. He can violate the law. We should just ignore it. We should not ignore it. We have never accepted this from anybody else. And the only reason we're facing a crisis right now is because he wants to act as if the Constitution doesn't apply to him. Well, I have news for him. If he wants to be in this country where we believe in a democracy, then he needs to abide by our laws as well as the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, I touched on that a little earlier. All these investigations, all of this crap is all because Donald Trump has ordered it.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to distract, like I said, muddy the waters.
Yep.
Because his whole administration was so corrupt.
Yep.
You know, he had his family members working in the White House. So what is and making deals with Saudi Arabia as soon as they got out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So of course he has to try to sound like, you know, Hunter Biden was doing the same thing, which is so ridiculous. Hunter Biden's a private citizen.
Right.
If Hunter Biden wants to work for Burisma, I mean, I'm not saying that that might be bad optics when Joe Biden was vice president, but there's no evidence that there's evidence that Joe Biden actually did things that would not be beneficial, that would hurt Burisma.
Right. Right.
So, you know, I mean, it's all just a bunch of crap and they know it. But they're being ordered to, you know, continue. And also, they're doing it because we impeached Donald Trump. Democrats impeached Donald Trump.
Yep.
And Donald Trump, what does he always want to do? He wants Joe Biden now to be impeached.
Yeah.
Well, so that you can't.
I mean, the only reason we should be impeaching presidents, as you know, is because they lie under oath about a BJ.
Blowjob, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a.
Yeah.
That should be impeachable for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just, see, and this is the thing, and it's like we just keep having to say this, but it is not. It didn't start with Trump. It's not going to end with Trump. Okay? This is the Republican Party. They are crooked. They are lying, cheating, stealing assholes.
They lie about everything.
Yeah.
They are always lying. You cannot ever give something a Republican says the benefit of the doubt.
No, and what's worse than that, it's like, and that's like the nicest thing that I think that we can say about them. The fact of the matter is, this was going on the entire time, and they were running around, running cover, reporting things back. Remember Devin Nunes? Devin Nunes?
Oh, yeah, the Midnight Run?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. There was so much of that. I don't even know where to start with that because they're still covering up for him.
Absolutely.
This whole thing with Joe Biden is to cover up for Donald Trump.
This episode of TruBlu Politics is brought to you in part by Night Sky Woodworks, featuring gorgeous products like cutting boards, cheese and charcuterie boards, and beautiful tea light holders, all fine handcrafted in their Chicago, Illinois wood shop. The holidays may be over, but an eye-catching design from Night Sky Woodworks is the perfect complimentary home piece to ring in the new year. Check out their in-stock designs today or message your custom order request on their Etsy shop today by visiting etsy.com/shop/nightsky, NITESKYE Woodworks. We couldn't do this without our loyal listeners and love hearing from you. So please give us some stars and review if you are so inclined wherever you get this podcast.
Please, please, please.
TruBlu Politics is sponsored by our wonderful TruBlu crew of listeners and our supporters on Patreon. As a small startup podcast, our Patreon members help us pay the bills to keep our podcast running and also allow us to keep investing in equipment upgrades for even better quality content in the future. When you sign up as a monthly TruBlu crew member at even just $5, you instantly unlock our private TruBlu pod chat and full episodes a day earlier than everyone else, without ads in the middle. That sounds pretty sweet.
That is pretty sweet, because I hate ads.
I know, me too. Upwards from there, we've made even more perks available, like having your name shouted out at the end of our show and a personal Zoom call with me and Anita to discuss ways to overthrow the GOP.
Right. That's right.
If you would like to become a Patreon subscriber at any level, go to patreon.com/TRUBLU Politics Podcast. And as always,
Yay.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah.
Thank you. I mean, they suppressed the whole thing. They were investigating his financial entanglements while he was president, and they shut that down.
Right.
They're still covering up for him. They do not care about the United States of America. They don't care about the Constitution. People need to start getting, understanding that. These people are just horrible people who do not care about you, who do not care about your country, who don't care about your life, your health, anything that your concerns, tabletop issues, any of that, your health care, whatever. They do not care, and they're not going to do anything to try to help you. The only people they want to help are the people that will donate, that benefit them, the multinational corporations, the billionaires, the people that, they're donors.
Yes.
So they can, because that's why all they ever do and all they ever stand for, and and when Trump was in office, the only thing they passed was a giant tax cut for multinational corporations. I mean, this is what they are. This is what they represent. They do not care about regular people.
They don't care about regular people. They don't care about democracy. They don't care about national security. And, so when they're screaming about the border, all this other stuff, Anita, you had visitors.
Yes, I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Republicans have decided that it's a good move for them to hold Ukraine funding hostage. Yes, tying it to the border.
Well, they're also talking about shutting down the government.
Yes, unless they shut down the border. So you're down there. What does that mean to you when they say, "Oh, we're going to shut down the border"?
It is just the most ridiculous thing. The Texas economy would completely collapse. The Texas economy is based. Let me give you an example. Like, we had some remodeling done at my house, and this is common here. I'm not just saying it's just me, because this is the way it is here. The people that came by, you could tell they were undocumented. I had some people tell me they were undocumented. There were some documented, some undocumented immigrants here, that were working on the remodeling. The construction industry would completely collapse without immigrant labor. And I say that because, my next door neighbor had her nanny was an undocumented person. I remember her telling me that she would send her money that she worked for back to her family in Mexico. My cousin had a live-in maid who was an undocumented. This is the way people live here. It's just, and it's just so dumb. I know my nephew worked in I think it was a jewelry store at the mall, which is right outside of San Antonio. And almost all their traffic are from Mexican nationals. They come there and they spend their money at the Gucci store, at the jewelry stores. And they like to buy American products. And that would go to shut down. There's so many things I can't even... it's just dumb, and they know it's dumb.
They know it's dumb. And what does it say to you that Ted Cruz is taking credit for expanding the bridges at the border, the southern border?
I'm wondering what border he's talking about, because that's the border. There's bridges that go to Mexico. Mexico is our second largest trading partner. Mexico. Yeah. So they're talking about shutting. I don't even know what that means. What are they going to shut down? Any kind of trade? I can't imagine Mexico is going to be happy with that. And this has been a problem. And I think somebody even asked Ted Cruz about it, or when he was, all these idiots were up there at the border or down here at the border, 60 of them. Like, we needed 60 Republicans to come down here and do their little theater and make their little videos so they could pretend that they really care about immigration, right? Right. And when they should be in Washington actually doing something about it, because these people don't want to do anything about immigration. Right. That is the bottom line here. Actually, that's really all we need to talk about, because they can put on this theater and they can talk about, they want to we're going to shut down the border. We're going to shut down the economy. The government. We're going to shut down whatever. If we're not going to fund Ukraine unless we get, shut down the border, we do immigration, they're not going to do anything because they don't benefit from it. They only benefit, and they do this every time there's an election coming up. They pretend they care. They're out here at the border, doing their little films. Ted Cruz, remember? He was like hiding in the brush.
Yep.
Like he's like out hunting for immigrants at night.
Yeah.
I mean, it is camo.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, it's ridiculous. But see, but you hit the nail on the head with it, right? The reason that it matters is that and this article from Axios talks about why it matters. Republicans believe that if they can make 2024 the year of the border, an issue that polls consistently show is that a top priority for voters and vulnerability for Democrats, President Biden will be defeated at the ballot box in November. That's why they're doing it. Like you said.
Of course that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's a vulnerability. Why is it a vulnerability for Democrats? They're talking about shutting down the border, shutting down the government. It should be a vulnerability for Republicans who won't do anything about it.
Exactly.
But instead, Axios and probably Politico and all the rest of the mainstream.
And not enough of the media are depicting this accurately.
Yeah. No, they do this all the time. They keep falling for it. Republicans scream about the border. They, like I said, they do their little theater here. And, they demand Biden come down to the border, even though he's been to the border. I'm not sure what he's supposed to do here. But, he knows what's going on here. Okay.
Yeah. And so they go down there with their cameras and they capture people standing in line waiting to be processed. Yes. And then, Anita, you'll like this. One lawmaker recounted to Axios that a Houston area sheriff told the group he'd support a government shutdown if it would ensure a more secure border. But this is my question to you. They're down there with their cameras taking pictures of migrants lining up, but they don't get this Houston sheriff on tape? Like,
why don't they even have his name? If this is, this is what I was talking about too. Nothing they say. You cannot believe anything they say.
Yeah.
What Houston sheriff?
Yeah, exactly.
What's his name? Why don't you have him on film, or at least his name?
Right. And then, of course, you're the Republicans down there, that are actually with the Texas legislature, like Texas Governor Greg Abbott, continues to take matters into his own hands, according to this article, busing tens of thousands of migrants to overwhelm Democratic-run cities and daring the administration to sue over these policies.
It's illegal what he's doing.
It's
human trafficking.
Yes, absolutely. So there is a clip that I wanted to play. Again, our beloved Jasmine Crockett speaking to this very issue. And I think she strikes all the right notes again. Here we go.
What I hear is that they do need the funding. We have so many officers that are having to leave their homes and be forced to go to the border because we are understaffed. And they're telling me that it's uncomfortable when they are not given any discretion whatsoever to have to leave their families and go to the border and stay in a hotel. So no, I will disagree and say that they need the funding, but I will also agree that there needs to be policy changes as well. It's not about doing one or the other. It's about doing both. And I can tell you that the money right now will help those cities that are struggling, whether it's Eagle Pass, or if we're talking about Chicago, or if we're talking about New York. I can guarantee you those mayors would not turn down the funding that the president has tried to push through, and the Republicans refuse to do it.
Listen,
it's so ridiculous that they're saying that they don't want funding.
No, I'll tell you right now, because she mentioned Chicago, and what's going on right now here is that to get around the new laws in Chicago that you can be fined for just dumping migrants in the city, right? So now what they're doing is they're going up and down the 90 corridor and they're dumping people at the Metro train stops without in the middle of winter, without coats, without food.
Without warning.
That's
That's illegal.
Yes.
And instead the media is saying, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is taking,
matters into his own hands. Yeah.
What he's doing is illegal.
Yes.
How about saying Texas Governor Greg Abbott is breaking the law?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And like, you know, and it is kind of telling where where they say that, you know, that he's daring the
Yeah.
Biden administration to
He's
take
breaking
action.
the law.
Yes, he's breaking the law. Exactly. So there were a couple of tweets, of course, and, you know, that kind of, you know, say it for me, you know, so this purple teacher tweets out, do they even know they hold the majority in the House? It's their border.
Yeah, I saw that tweet. That's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
they won't do. I mean, what she's saying is right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that they're the majority. And like I said, they're here in Texas instead of in Washington doing their job. There is nothing they can do in Texas. You saw them when the migrants were back there. Did they do anything?
No. No,
Yeah.
they didn't do
Did they go and
anything.
stop them?
Exactly. Get your asses back to Washington and do your fucking job and pass immigration reform.
It's just the bottom. We just have to keep saying this is all theater. They do not care about immigration. They're never going to do anything.
Yeah. And of course, Rep. Troy Nils, Republican of Texas, you're familiar with him, told CNN that he would not vote for a bill to solve issues at the border because it could help President Biden's approval ratings. Let me tell you, he says, I'm not willing to do too damn much right now to help a Democrat and to help Joe Biden's approval rating.
There you go.
Give it the game away. Give the game away.
Totally. That's all you have to remember.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to be solved. Nothing is going to be done about immigration until Republicans are gone. Until Democrats take over again.
Yeah.
They're the only people, and it's still going to be difficult unless we have enough senators to actually pass, you know, get through a filibuster. I hope to get rid of the filibuster if Democrats take over the Senate again. You know, keep the Senate.
Yeah.
And then gain that extra 2 seats to, you know, negate Manchin and Sinema.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sinema looks in trouble, but she's running as an independent.
Yeah.
And it looks like, what's his name is ahead?
Ruben Gallego.
Ruben Gallego, thank you.
Anyway, yeah, we've got to take control. There's no option in like the predictions about that they could take the House and lose the Senate. That cannot happen. People need to understand. Up and down the ballot,
you have
got to vote for Democrats if you want to restore our rights as women and protect the rights of
LGBTQ people of you know, voting rights. Look, a perfect example is the states that have been taken over by Democrats. Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan. These states are doing really great things. They're protecting reproductive rights.
Yes.
They're expanding childcare.
Yep.
So that, I mean, and preschool.
Yeah.
Free preschool.
Yep.
And I mean, to talk about some things that Pritzker's doing because he has a Democratic House and Senate.
Well, I can't name them all off the top of my head, but
just a few things.
Well, first and foremost is the fact that balancing the budget. After school care. I mean, there's all kinds of things. See, this is,
I know.
Okay, but see, Anita, but Anita, this is the difference, right? You hear all this stuff that your governor is doing. I am happy to say that I don't even have to think about or worry about what Pritzker's doing.
There's no drama in Illinois. God, how boring.
I know. I guess. I guess, you know, shame on me for not being more plugged in. But literally, like, this is what you want. You want to have.
Yeah, that's exactly what we don't want to have to. Well, we don't have to wake up every day wondering how what disaster awaits us.
Exactly.
You know how our governor embarrassed us, or our president. In case of Donald Trump.
Yes, exactly right. Okay, so you know we would like to end on a positive note, right?
Yes.
So you had sent me a link with the good end of the year numbers for Biden.
Simon Rosenberg, let's give it a plug.
Yep,
Simon Rosenberg's. It's what's the name of it? The Hopium Chronicles.
Yes, Hopium Chronicles, and so
on Substack.
So here we go. So GDP growth was 5.2 last quarter. U.S. has had best recovery. Yes, U.S. has had best recovery from COVID in the G7.
Amazing.
Inflation was 0 last month,
and now it's down to like almost 2%. You know, constant.
Yeah. Wage growth remains robust, 5% via Atlanta Fed. Wages have been beating inflation for many months now.
Yes.
Median wealth up 37% from 2020
That's
to
incredible.
2022. Median
Yep.
wealth for 18 to 34-year-olds in this period more than doubled. Jobs are
Wow.
more plentiful than any time since the 1960s. Jobs are more plentiful than any time since the 1960s. U.S. has lowest uninsured rate in history. New businesses being created at record rates. Stock market on a very good run, near record highs. Dow is 18 times higher than 1989. U.S. setting records in oil and renewable energy production. Gen Z home ownership matching previous generations. That's great news for me.
That is great. Yes.
Many cities and states have raised the minimum wage in recent years, creating a much higher income floor for young and poorer workers. Biden has erased $127 billion in student loan debt, and
That's
hopefully
right.
with the numbers we can do more. Biden investment agenda will create growth, innovation, opportunities for American workers for decades to come.
He didn't even mention the, insulin is like $35.
Yep, capped at 35. Yep.
Yeah, and it's been lowered by these, even if you're if you're on Medicare, it's capped at 35. But now they've actually lowered the cost for people using private insurance too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah, we have some great news, and we have
and crime is down.
Yep.
Crime is on track to reach like the low of like 1961.
Okay.
That's how fast their crime rate is falling.
Exactly. So great news to report there. And we have some things that we can look forward to in 2024. Biden is starting out with his speech.
A very important speech.
Commemorating January 6th.
At Valley Forge.
Yep.
Remember when Donald Trump said Valley Forge, where we rammed the ramparts and took over the airports?
Uh-huh.
He's commemorating that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, I'm going to just go ahead and play. This was on Morning Joe. President Biden released a new ad for the Biden-Harris campaign. So this is the first one, and I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
I've made the preservation of American democracy the central issue of my presidency. I believe in free and fair elections and the right to vote fairly and have your vote counted. There's something dangerous happening in America. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. All of us are being asked right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy? History's watching. The world is watching. And most important, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible. The Vice President and I have supported voting rights since day one of this administration, and I ask every American to join me in this cause. America is still a place of possibilities where the power resides with we, the people. That's our soul. We are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Yeah, perfect. They're really setting the tone. They understand the stakes.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's just, for such a long time, we were kind of like, why aren't they seeing this? And it's just like, it is so.
Oh, they see it.
Yeah.
They see it.
Just between, Jamie Raskin, Eric Swalwell, and Jasmine Crockett, and, on and on. Just so many
Some
rock
alpha
stars.
liberals.
Yes. Alpha liberals that are just coming out and telling the truth and raising the alarm level. That
Moskowitz guy, he's good too.
Absolutely.
Moskowitz, Dan Goldman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some rock stars, and we have to protect them, and we have to protect our democracy, and we have to vote, and get everybody that we know registered. Make sure to check your registration and get everybody
make sure
out.
They're still on the rolls.
Yep, absolutely. We've got our marching orders, and now we're going to go like full force into 2024 and get this done. So anyway, Thank you. Great talking to you again. And
You too.
I'll
talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Blue wave, we rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away.